The sun baked the plains till they shimmered like sheets of brass. The wind moved slow, dragging dust across the ground like old ghosts reluctant to leave. Sheriff Eli Garner squinted through the glare from his horse's saddle, his eyes tracing the horizon for any sign of the outlaws who'd hit the Wells Fargo coach 2 nights back. He'd been riding for 30 hours with only a swig of water and half a cigar to keep him company. The trail was colder than a dead rattler, until he saw the foal. It came limping out from a patch of dry sagebrush, ribs showing, flank bloodied. A Mustang foal, no more than a few weeks old, with a coat the color of red clay and eyes wild from pain. Its right hind leg dragged uselessly, and every few steps it stumbled to its knees. Eli pulled his reins, bringing his horse, Copper, to a halt. "Well now," he muttered, sliding off the saddle. "Ain't no place for a baby like you out here." The foal snorted weakly, trying to hobble away, but its strength gave out. It collapsed in the dust, sides heaving. Eli knelt beside it. The wound wasn't clean, it looked like a bullet graze. Someone had shot this creature. His jaw tightened. He tore a strip of linen from his shirt sleeve and pressed it against the bleeding leg. As he worked, he noticed something odd. The foal wasn't alone. There were hoofprints, 4 or 5 sets, grown mustangs, moving fast and nervous. But their trail was cut across by something else. Boot prints, heavy ones, and the distinct drag of a mule loaded with cargo. The tracks led west, into the canyons. "Well, little one," he said, tying the bandage snug, "looks like you've seen the same bastards I've been hunting." The foal gave a faint whinny, as if answering him. It tried to stand, wobbling but determined. Eli smiled. "You got grit, I'll give you that." He didn't expect what happened next. The foal took 3 limping steps, looked back at him, then started heading west, toward the Red Canyon country. It would go a few yards, stop, look back again, like it was waiting for him to follow. Eli straightened, brushing dust off his hands. "You tellin' me to come along, huh?" The foal snorted softly and limped on. So he mounted Copper and followed. For 2 hours they trailed the little creature through the Badlands, where the ground cracked underfoot and the rocks glowed with heat. The sun began to drop, turning everything to gold. The foal never strayed from its slow, halting pace, and Eli couldn't help but admire the stubbornness burning in its tiny body. As twilight deepened, they reached the edge of the canyons, a maze of stone walls and narrow trails, the kind of place outlaws loved for hiding loot or corpses. The foal stopped near a dry creek, pawed the dust weakly, and looked back at Eli. "You want me to see something, don't you?" he murmured. He dismounted and followed where the foal was nosing the ground. The sand there was disturbed, like something had been dragged. A few yards ahead, he spotted it, a torn piece of burlap sack half buried under gravel. He pulled it free. It was stamped with Wells Fargo and Company. "Well, I'll be damned." The foal gave a faint whinny again, swaying on its legs. Eli knelt beside it and stroked its muzzle. "You done more help than any posse could've." He camped there that night, giving the foal some water and a handful of oats from his horse's supply. Under the stars, the air cooled and the coyotes sang. Eli leaned back against a rock, thinking about the outlaws. There'd been 5 of them, led by Cole Danner, a slick bastard with a grin like a knife. They'd robbed the stage, killed the driver, and vanished. Every posse sent after them came back empty-handed. But the canyon they were near wasn't on any regular map. It was local legend, an old miner's warren of hidden tunnels and narrow passes. If Cole was hiding gold, this would be the place. By morning, the foal's wound had stopped bleeding, though it still limped. Eli saddled up, ready to follow the tracks deeper. But the foal started off first, hobbling ahead again. He followed, and soon the trail grew narrow, hemmed in by towering red cliffs. The air smelled of iron and sage. Halfway up the trail, Coppa's ears pricked. The sheriff froze, scanning the ridgeline. Then came a sound, faint clatter of hooves, metal scraping rock. Someone was moving above them. Eli dismounted quietly and crouched behind a boulder. He saw 3 riders on the ridge, men with rifles slung low, their faces hidden under dusty bandanas. Danner's gang, no doubt. The foal stayed still beside him, trembling slightly. Eli waited till they rode past, heading toward a narrow canyon mouth to the east. When they vanished behind the rocks, he turned to the foal. "Looks like your sense of direction's sharper than mine." They moved on foot through a side passage, squeezing between jagged stones until the path opened into a wide basin, and that's when he saw it. At the far end, half buried under a ledge, were mules and crates covered in tarp. He stepped closer and pulled one open. Gold bars. Dozens of them. Enough to buy the whole damn town twice over. Eli let out a slow whistle. "Well, I'll be. You led me straight to it, didn't you?" Before he could plan his next move, a voice rang out from the rocks above. "Drop the gun, Sheriff." Eli spun. Cole Danner stood on the ridge, rifle leveled, his grin cutting through the morning light. Two of his men flanked him, rifles cocked. "Well, looky here," Danner said, voice slick as oil. "The lawman found my stash. Mighty helpful of you, Garner." Eli's hand hovered over his holster. "You're under arrest, Danner. Come down quiet." Danner laughed, a sound dry as desert bones. "You ain't in no position to make demands." Then he looked down and noticed the foal limping beside Eli. His smirk faltered. "Ain't that the one we shot? Damn thing won't die." Eli's eyes narrowed. "You shot this foal?" Danner shrugged. "We thought we'd use its herd as bait. Things got messy." Eli's hand moved fast. His Colt cleared leather before Danner could blink. The first shot cracked like thunder, taking one outlaw off the ridge. Danner dove behind a rock, firing back. Bullets sparked off stone, echoing through the canyon. Copper reared behind him, and the foal bolted toward the shadows. Eli ducked low, firing again. Another outlaw went down screaming. Danner cursed, retreating deeper into the rocks. Then silence, except for the wind sighing through the cliffs. Eli waited, sweat dripping, finger tight on the trigger. And then he heard it, faint hooves, echoing through a tunnel at the canyon's far side. The foal again, limping, but still moving. Maybe it knew a way through. "All right, little one," Eli muttered, reloading. "Lead on." He followed the sound into the tunnel, where the light dimmed to a reddish gloom. The air grew cooler, echoing with distant drips of water. Somewhere ahead, Danner was hiding. The foal's hoofbeats were the only guide, slow, uneven, but steady, pulling the sheriff deeper into the stone heart of the canyon. The gold could wait. Justice came first. And by God, this time, he wasn't leaving without it. The tunnel narrowed until Eli had to duck under the jagged rock. Dust filled the air, stirred by his boots and the faint shuffle of the wounded foal ahead. He kept his Colt drawn, eyes flicking between shadows. The faint sound of trickling water echoed somewhere deeper in the canyon, mixed with the muffled clop of the foal's limp. A dim shaft of sunlight broke through a crack in the ceiling, lighting up the path for just a moment. Eli caught sight of a blood smear on the wall, fresh. Danner hadn't gone far. The foal stopped near a fork where the passage split in two. It looked back at him, snorted, and stepped toward the right tunnel. Eli nodded. "You've got the nose for trouble, don't you?" They followed the narrow right-hand path, winding down until it opened into a hollow chamber. The ground glittered faintly, tiny flecks of gold dust scattered in the dirt. Someone had used this place before. Maybe miners. Maybe thieves. Suddenly, a sound broke through the silence, a scrape of boot against stone. Eli spun, gun raised. "Don't shoot, Sheriff," came a shaky voice from the shadows. A man stumbled out, holding his side. Not Danner, but one of his boys. His face was pale, lips cracked. He'd been hit, probably in the shootout. "Where's Danner?" Eli barked. The outlaw laughed weakly, then coughed. "Ran off with the gold maps. Said he'd come back for us. Guess he didn't mean it." Eli kept his aim steady. "You're bleedin' bad. Tell me where he went." The man slumped to the ground. "There's a back pass. Leads to the high ridge. That's where he's headed." Said something about the old miner's bridge. He groaned and dropped his head. Eli pressed his lips tight. That bridge was a death trap, a rope and plank walkway hanging over a canyon 200 feet deep. The foal stepped closer to the dying man, sniffed him, then turned its head toward the tunnel again, ears twitching. "Yeah, I hear you," Eli said softly. "Let's finish this." He reloaded, holstered his Colt, and followed the foal's lead again. The air grew colder as they climbed higher, the tunnel slanting upward until daylight poured through a wide crack ahead. Eli emerged blinking into blinding sun. Before him stretched the upper canyon ridge, the kind of place that made a man dizzy to look down from. The earth fell away into an abyss of red and shadow. And there, half a mile ahead, a figure crossed the hanging bridge. Cole Danner. He carried a saddlebag heavy with gold. Eli whistled low to Copper, who waited below. The horse answered with a faint whinny, echoing up the canyon wall. Then Eli started across the bridge. The wood creaked underfoot, ropes swaying in the wind. Each step was a gamble. He could see Danner halfway across, moving slow with the weight of his loot. "Danner!" Eli shouted. His voice cracked like a rifle shot. The outlaw froze, turning his head. "You just don't quit, do you, Sheriff? Not till you're hangin' from a rope." Danner grinned, the wind tossing his hat. "Tell you what, why don't you come get me?" He fired a shot. The bullet sliced the rope above Eli's shoulder, splintering the bridge plank. Eli dropped flat, gripping the rope tight. Wind howled up the canyon, whistling through the gap. The foal, still limping along the ridge behind him, let out a terrified cry. Its small body trembled, but it stepped forward, hooves clattering dangerously close to the edge. "Stay back, little one!" Eli yelled. Danner took advantage of the distraction. He dashed for the other side of the bridge, but the gold weighed him down. One of the planks gave way beneath him, sending part of the sack spilling into the canyon. Gold bars tumbled into the abyss, glinting like falling stars. "No! Damn it!" Danner roared. He tried to regain balance, clutching the ropes. Eli moved fast. With one hand gripping the railing, he drew his Colt, sighted, and fired. The shot hit Danner in the shoulder, spinning him sideways. His rifle fell, clattering into the canyon below. The outlaw staggered to the far side, blood soaking his sleeve. He turned, eyes burning with hate. "You ain't talking me alive." He pulled his knife and slashed at the main rope holding the bridge. "Don't you!" Too late. The rope snapped with a thunderous crack. The whole bridge lurched. Eli dove forward, grabbing the last intact cable. The structure swung violently, planks splintering under him. The foal, seeing him dangling, let out a wild cry and galloped, limping, stumbling, but running full speed, toward the edge. Eli dangled above the canyon, grit stinging his eyes. He could see Danner clinging to the far side, bleeding and frantic. "You're gonna die out here, Sheriff," Danner screamed. "You and that damn horse." The foal wasn't listening. It reached the broken edge and brayed, stomping hard against the ground. Eli glanced up, and saw the rock beneath the foal start to crumble. "No!" The foal fell forward, its small body tumbling down onto a lower ledge just a few feet from where Eli swung. He reached out, catching onto a jutting rock, then another, hauling himself toward the ledge. His muscles screamed, his vision swam, but he made it. The foal lay there, panting, trembling but alive. "Hell of a spirit," Eli gasped, stroking its head. A shadow moved above him. Danner again, bleeding, staggering, dragging himself toward them. His face twisted with madness. "You ain't stoppin' me. That gold's mine." Eli leveled his gun, but Danner lunged first. The two men crashed together on the ledge. The Colt went spinning into the air. They grappled, boots sliding on loose gravel, fists slamming into bone. Eli caught Danner by the throat, shoving him backward. "You killed a driver. You shot this foal. You think you can just keep talking?" Danner sneered, blood running down his cheek. "That's all there is in this world, Sheriff. Take before you get took." Then the ledge gave way. Eli fell to his knees just as Danner slipped over the edge. The outlaw clawed at the rock, caught a root, hung there screaming. "Help me!" he shouted, eyes wide with terror. Eli looked down at him, chest heaving. For a heartbeat, neither man moved. Then the sheriff said quietly, "You had your chance." Danner's grip broke. He plunged into the canyon below, his scream swallowed by the wind. Silence followed. Only the distant cry of a hawk filled the air. Eli slumped against the stone, breathing hard. The foal limped to his side and nudged his arm gently. He smiled weakly. "You did good, little one." He looked back toward the ruined bridge, where scraps of rope fluttered like old flags. The gold was gone, most of it anyway. Maybe the canyon could keep its secret again. As he led the foal back down through the narrow paths, the afternoon light softened to amber. The air smelled like rain. By the time they reached Copper, waiting faithfully near the dry creek, Eli felt the weight of it all sink in, the dust, the death, the small miracle of survival. He lifted the foal onto Coppa's back, careful with its wounded leg. "You're comin' with me," he murmured. "We'll get you patched proper." He turned one last time to look at the canyon. The wind howled softly through its heart, carrying away echoes of gunfire and greed. Somewhere down there, Danner and his gold lay buried together, justice enough for one day. Eli mounted up, tipped his hat to the horizon, and started the long ride home. The foal rested its head against his arm as they rode. For the first time in days, Eli felt peace settle on his shoulders like an old friend. By the time Sheriff Eli Garner made it back to Dust Creek, the sky had turned violet and the stars were waking one by one. The wind carried that familiar dry chill of the desert night, the kind that cut through a man's bones but made him grateful to still be breathing. The foal rode beside him, swaddled in Eli's old bedroll. Its wound had clotted, but it still trembled now and then, flinching at sounds. Eli spoke to it the whole way, slow and steady, like he would to a spooked child. "Ain't no more gunfire now, little one. You did your part. Reckon you earned a name, too." He thought a while, listening to the creak of the saddle and the crunch of hooves. "Dusty," he finally said with a small grin. "You came limpin' outta the dust like you owned the place. Dusty it is." The foal gave a faint snort, as if approving. When the lantern lights of Dust Creek came into view, Eli's shoulders eased. The town was a scatter of low buildings: saloon, general store, jailhouse, blacksmith. Life here was simple, rough, and small. Most nights, the only excitement was a poker brawl or a busted whiskey barrel. But tonight, the air felt lighter somehow, like justice had managed to balance its scales for once. At the stable, old Hank Brewer shuffled out, his beard yellowed from chewing tobacco. "Sheriff. Lord Almighty, what you got there? A baby Mustang." Eli dismounted, lifting the foal down gently. "Found it shot up near Red Canyon. Helped me find something important." "Helped you?" Hank scratched his head. "How's a foal help the law?" Eli smirked. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." He handed Hank the reins. "Get her cleaned up, feed her warm mash. I'll cover the oats." Hank nodded, tipping his hat. "You got it. She's a fighter, I'll give her that." Eli walked on to the sheriff's office, boots scuffing the boardwalk. His bones ached, his throat was dry as sandstone, and all he wanted was a chair, a sip of whiskey, and silence. Inside, the lamplight flickered weakly over the wanted posters on the wall. One of them still showed Cole Danner's smirking face. Eli tore it down, folded it once, and tossed it in the stove. "Case closed," he muttered. He poured a glass of whiskey and sat by the window, watching the night settle over the empty street. The sound of Hank humming in the stable carried faintly on the wind. He couldn't help but think of that canyon, the twisted bridge, the gold scattered like sin across the rocks, and that foal limping toward danger without hesitation. Animals, he thought, got no greed in them. They just move where instinct tells them. Maybe the world would be better if men remembered how to do the same. By morning, word had spread. Folks gathered outside the sheriff's office, whispering about Danner's death and the lost gold. A few men even rode out hoping to find it, but most came back empty-handed. The canyon had swallowed it, same as it had swallowed Danner. Eli didn't much care. His reward wasn't in coin. Over the next few weeks, The foal healed. Hank took to her like kin, brushing her coat till it shone and letting her wander the corral. The first time she tried running again, still favoring that leg, Eli was there. She stumbled, then found her stride, small and proud. "Look at that," Hank said. "She's got spirit enough to make the devil jealous." Eli chuckled. "That's my girl." He started visiting the stable more often than folks expected from a man of his kind. He'd bring her apples or talk while leaning on the fence rail, telling her about the things that kept him up at night, the outlaws, the lonely roads, the weight of every soul he couldn't save. Dusty would listen, ears flicking, like she understood. Then came one stormy afternoon when a telegram arrived. It was from the Wells Fargo Company, offering a bounty payment for the recovery of the stolen shipment, or what remained of it. A few bars of gold had been found near the canyon rim. Eli took the envelope, glanced at the amount, and smiled faintly. "Guess I'll take enough to fix the jail roof and buy oats for Dusty. The rest can go back east." That night, the rain came down in sheets, drumming on the tin roof. Eli sat in his office again, but this time he wasn't alone. Dusty was there, lying by the door, her eyes half shut. She'd grown stronger, her wound healed to a faint scar. He poured himself a small drink, the amber liquid catching the lamplight. "Funny thing, girl," he said softly. "You led me to gold worth more than I'll ever need, and all I wanted was to find you." Thunder rolled across the plains, deep and distant. The next morning, the storm broke into a clean sunrise. The desert steamed under the new light, smelling of wet sage and clay. Eli saddled up Copper and looked over the fence. Dusty trotted up, her limp almost gone. "You ready to stretch them legs for real?" he asked. She whinnied and nudged his arm. They rode out together, Eli on Copper and Dusty following close. The land spread wide before them, the same endless red and gold as the day they'd met. Only now, Eli saw it different, not as a lawman chasing ghosts, but as a man lucky enough to find a piece of grace in all that emptiness. They stopped at the rim of the canyon. The wind whispered through it like a hymn. Somewhere down there lay the bones of greed, and above it, the spirit of something pure, courage, loyalty, maybe redemption. Eli took off his hat and bowed his head for a moment. "Rest easy, Danner," he said quietly. "You made your choices. Hope you found peace under all that rock." Dusty stepped closer, lowering her head too, as if she understood. When they turned back toward town, the sun climbed higher, painting everything in gold again. Only this time, it wasn't stolen gold. It was the kind that couldn't be taken. Light, freedom, and the bond between a man and a creature who'd once been left for dead. Years later, folks in Dust Creek would still talk about that story, how the wounded foal led the sheriff straight to the hidden canyon full of stolen gold. Some said it was luck. Others swore the foal was sent by fate, or by the spirit of the murdered stage driver. Eli never said much about it. Whenever someone asked, he'd just smile, tip his hat, and say, "All I know is, sometimes the smallest things in this world can carry you farther than any map." And every evening, if you passed by the sheriff's ranch outside town, you'd see him on the porch with Dusty grazing in the field, her coat shining under the setting sun. A lawman and a Mustang, both scarred, both survivors, sharing the quiet peace they'd earned the hard way, out there where the desert winds still carry the echo of gunfire, and the promise of something pure rising from the dust.